Hi, everybody. This is Jimmy DeYoung. Welcome to Prophecy Today video. On Prophecy Today weekend, we had reports from all around the world, our broadcast partners, with information that we needed to hear so that we can better understand how this world is moving very close to the fulfillment of the prophetic scenario that's found in Bible prophecy. You know, we discuss the issues of today, the current political events happening in our world, and then as we see these current events unfolding, we'll take a moment here now to look at the prophetic passages and use them as a spotlight or a microscope at what is happening in our world today compared to the prophetic passages, the scenario in God's Word, and see indeed that the stage is being set for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled. We talked with our broadcast partners, Colonel Bob McGinnis in Washington, D.C. We discussed the election of an Islamist, a man who is a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. Mohammed Morsi has been sworn in. He is now the leader of the largest Arab country in the world. Bashar Assad said that his country is at civil war, and Vladimir Putin made a quick visit to Israel, wanting to make sure that the world understands he is a key player in the Middle East. That was discussed with Colonel Bob McGinnis. We brought Winky Madad to these microphones for a Middle East news update. He gave us further insight into how the elections in Egypt, the Syrian civil war, and Putin's visit to Israel is affecting the Jewish people and the Jewish state of Israel. Yaakov Lapin has written a book entitled Virtual Caliphate, and Itamar Marcus heads up the Palestinian Media Watch. We brought these two men to our microphones to really talk about what the Muslim Brotherhood and the Palestinians, like Hamas, are saying about this current event that's happening in our world, an establishment of a Islamist leader heading up the largest Arab country in this world. Rob Congdon reminded us of the economic crisis going on, a big summit taking place this last week there in Brussels, Belgium, the European Union leaders coming together, trying to bring some stability to the economic situation there in Europe, in the European Union in particular. Well, all of these things that we've talked about are indeed evidence of how current events are setting the stage for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled. By the way, you can listen to each and every one of these conversations. Go to our website, prophecytoday.com, PTRN, Prophecy Today Radio Network. That's radio when you want it at your convenience. And might I suggest you either send an email to one of your friends or call them, tell them they need to listen to these interviews. Very important information brought out in our conversations. Well, having said all of that, and remember, it's prophecytoday.com, PTRN, where you can hear the conversations. But I think we need to take a closer look at the current events which our broadcast partners reported on and see how they do fit into God's prophetic scenario for the last days in this world. For example, let's think about the elections in Egypt. Morsi is an Islamist, a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. He is now president of the largest Arab country in the world, as I have said. He wants to institute Sharia, which means that the law of the land then would be from the Quran. That's what you would do if you're going to move towards an Islamic republic. An Islamist taking over this large Arab country. You know, if you go to the book of Daniel, chapter 11, verses 40 to 43, you'll see how a scenario unfolds where there will be a radical Egypt that will participate in an alignment of nations that will come against the Jewish state of Israel. In Daniel chapter 11, verse 40, you'll notice that it talks about the king of the north and the king of the south. Early on in chapter 11 of Daniel, it defines that the king of the north is the geographical location called Syria today, and the king of the south would represent the geographical location known as Egypt today. Syria and Egypt are going to move against the Jewish state of Israel. They will be the first nations in the Middle East to go after this Jewish state of Israel, which the Islamist world would like to remove from the earth. They don't want Jews in a state prospering right in the middle of this Islamic region of the world. We talked, of course, about the civil war in Syria. Bashar Assad saying his nation is at civil war, and in fact he said that this war could break over its borders and become a regional war. Now, Syria is the king of the north there in that passage we were talking about, Daniel chapter 11 and verse 40. And then as you read down, Egypt, the king of the south, comes into play. As there is activity happening in the Middle East after the rapture of the church, the Antichrist. By the way, in the passage, you'll see he, his, and him, those pronouns 14 times. He, his, and him, referring to the Antichrist. He comes in, he goes to the north, wipes out Syria, comes down through Ammon, Moab, and Edom. It's right there in the passage in Daniel. He doesn't touch it because that's where Petra is located. That's where the Jewish people are going to be protected by the Lord during that 7-year tribulation period. But he wipes out Egypt and he wipes out Syria. Why does he do that? Well, the Antichrist has confirmed a peace agreement, Daniel 9:27. He confirms a peace agreement with Israel and all of her neighbors. When they attack, he has to go and wipe them out. In fact, it's a part of the whole situation of the Islamic world being wiped out because the Antichrist is going to be putting together a false religion. Now, he doesn't call it a false religion. He calls it a world religion. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 17. We talked about the instability of Iraq with Maliki, who is a weak prime minister. Howbeit, he is now moving some hooligans to go and attack his enemies. You have a man named Muqtada Sadr who would like to bring down Maliki there in Iraq, this war-torn country that's trying to rebuild, and set his own government in place. Well, that's talked about in the book of Revelation chapter 18, where Babylon is mentioned. Babylon is modern-day Iraq. It's on the shores of the Euphrates River, 58 miles out of downtown Baghdad. Vladimir Putin, he made a visit to Israel for about 24 hours. That's Ezekiel chapter 38 and verse 2. Gog in the land of Magog. Magog is Russia. Now, Gog is the person. I'm not going to say that Putin is that person, but he is the leader of the Russian nation right now, which is putting him in place to do that. You know, all these current events are setting the stage for God's prophetic scenario to be fulfilled in all the passages that we were talking about. 16 chapters of detailed information are found in Revelation, chapters 4 to 19, and it lays out the scenario for every single thing I have already discussed as we've taken a look at the book. But remember, the second coming, chapter 19, verse 11, takes place. Before that, though, 7 years before, is the rapture of the church. That's Revelation chapter 4 and verse 1. And everything that's set for that rapture to happen. Having said that, nothing left for me to say, except let's keep looking up until...